It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. So today I'm going to be, well, at least in this part, I don't know how I'm going to record the rest of it yet, but as the description says, we're going to be having a look at a original Ergodox kit. So the backstory on this kit is I recently joined a Discord group for my local area, which is Sydney, and through just talking in the different channels, it turns out that somebody was actually previously heavily involved in the mechanical keyboard community. They actually have 6 keyboards, and as part of that they purchased an Ergodox kit. Unfortunately for them, they didn't have the means, just waiting for a bit of high traffic to go by there, to put it together, and it was a little bit beyond them in terms of the technical expertise that they thought that they might have had at the time, and so the kit languished for a while. When I found out, I basically said, hey, I can help you put this together if you like, and so we were able to meet up and pass over the kit. So at least in this first part, we're going to be having a look at what a OG original Ergodox kit looks like from the perspective of being a couple of years down the track. Now if you look a long way back in this playlist of videos for this channel, you will see that I actually built an Ergodox kit. But my ghetto Ergodox kit is a little bit different because it doesn't have a case, and I was using through-hole components for the diodes. So this kit actually has the SMDs in it, and it has both acrylic plates and a metal topper. So let's have a look now. In the interest of protecting privacy, I've just taped over the name that was actually in the box because that's what they had written when they were packing it. And I believe this may have actually been a Ergodox kit from Mastrop because a lot of the components all have the MDX sticker on it, which now, of course, now Mastrop is known as Drop. So in this packet, we have all of these SMD diodes, which I will be looking forward to the lovely challenge of putting them on. We've got some resistors in here. We've got the TRS jacks. We've got the actual I/O expander that is required down here. We've got the USB socket and the supporting Teensy 2.0 in this pink packet. Okay, so they're all the primary. There's some capacitors back there, so they're the bits and pieces that's going to make it go. Now there is a set of black DSA for the Ergodox, which is here. The actual build is going to be done with Cherry MX Clears by the looks of it, which is what these are. They're a heavy tactile bump. And we've got a USB cable. We've got another USB cable because I think one of these is actually going to get chopped up to connect the Teensy to the PCB itself. And then here is the TRRS jack. Now focus is kind of lost there because so much shiny plastic. So switches, cable, a TRRS jack, and then we get into a bit more of the guts. So we've got 2 of the original Ergodox PCBs. Now I don't know if these are modified or not versions, because I believe Profet 23 had done a form of modification which allowed you to use the left hand side as a gamepad, but we can see here it is designed by Dominic Beauchamp based on the Key 64 by Nestor A. Diaz, and then on the other side we've got revision 2012 0802, August 2012. So we're actually only we're a couple of weeks now from August when this is being recorded, and we are talking 7 years. 7 years. Manufactured by PCB Wing and drawn by Frederick Atmar, Bathroom Epiphanies. So pretty classic. There's the second half of the PCB. We've got some screws. There we go. And then the interesting part is that we've got two black metal plates which are packaged in here as toppers, and then there's massive packet here of the full kit with the acrylic. So we've got plenty of acrylic layers there. That's obviously the bottom piece, and then that's the plate layer, and there'll be intermediate layers in between there as well. So that's what an OG mass drop Ergodox kit looked like from back in the day. I don't really have any indication of the actual date when this was purchased and when it was shipped, but we can definitely tell you it's old because a lot of this is kind of faded a bit. And well, when was the last time that they actually ran one, to be honest? I'm not 100% sure. So hopefully I'm going to be able to find some time without small children around, because doing the SMD part is probably my biggest concern, having a small child run around and getting a little bit handsy. Not so much hurting herself, but accidentally knocking stuff and potentially having all these diodes fly everywhere. And if you've ever seen a normal through-hole diode, well, the actual body of these is similar size, but just without the legs. And we're talking about, what, under 4 mil wide? Yeah, just on 3 mil or so, and we're looking at about 2 mil. So they're pretty small, Now there's some really excellent Ergodox guides out there in putting this together, so I have confidence that I'm not going to have an issue in doing that. And then of course we'll just have to see how we go. So haven't quite decided how I'm going to do this video, if I'm just going to do the build and string it together, or if I'll do a part 1, part 2, part 3, that kind of thing, and we'll just see how it goes. So if there's more that's following, then fantastic. If not, yeah, we'll see you in the next part, whatever that is. Wow, so it's done. It's built. It's finished. You can see the Ergodox in all of its black top glory. It is plugged in right now, and you can see the clear acrylic bottom of that. I have already flashed it now, so it is functional, but I'll show you that in a moment. It took me 4 hours pretty much, almost spot on. It was 3 hours and 54 minutes to build this kit. The longest portion of it was obviously putting the SMD diodes on it. Now, I've done a little bit of SMD work before, but not with the flat rectangular diodes. I've done round diodes on them, and they're a bit bigger. So it was a bit of a challenge to get the right technique working for me. And if you're watching the time lapse of the build a little bit carefully, you'll see the second hand that I built, I was actually a lot faster with it, because I wasn't sure if I should have been going and doing the tacking on both sides and then sort of the resolder, the reflow of it, or just tacking one side and then dabbing on the other connection, which was working a bit better. I found that using my forceps, it was still really finicky, and I was very concerned about dropping and losing one of those diodes, especially because when I got to the end, well, they pretty much didn't have any spares accounted for because of the way that they'd done the kit. So, it was a little bit stressful at times, but it was actually still fun, and I got a lot of satisfaction actually ending up with this. The thing that I have to warn anybody who is getting clears is that the stems are super tight. I made a mistake on this right hand side where I'd put one U keycap there, and when I took it off, I actually took the top of the housing off with it and the stem, and I had to use a small screwdriver very carefully to separate that, and then so I could reseat the housing in, and then put the correct size keycap on top. So don't be surprised that if you are taking keycaps off, even with a correct puller, and you're trying to be gentle with it, that your housings may come apart with using the MX clears. That's already a known issue. They're just super tight for some reason, and it might also be because of the material properties. Now, in terms of this design, there is actually some spare clear tops, but because the owner of this kit actually went with the black metal option, I think it looks really nice. What is cool about it is that there is a hole over here that you can see. The camera's not going to show it, but that's the reset switch on the Teensy 2. So if you want to reflash your key map on this, there's no need to actually take this apart. You just need to get something thin and poke that through and hit that reset button. And because it's a Teensy, it uses the Teensy Flash program, the Teensy loader, which is really super easy to work with, and I've done that before. And you just have to compile a hex file. So what I've got over on the monitor on that side is this. So this is, I'm just going to override that. So I've used QMK configurator because that's what's currently available now, and I've chosen the Ergodox EZ and just a straight up Ergodox layout, and that's the default key map on it. You can ignore the fact that it says danger zone. That's just a cosmetic thing more than anything else. You can choose whatever you like so it looks nice and pretty, but that's the default layout for the Ergodox layout here, and you compile it using the button up here. You download the firmware, and then you can chuck it on using the Teensy installer, which basically looks like this. And you can connect to it and flash it, and it just does its thing. So you can see down here I've just got Ergodox default, which is what this is, defaultish 59C 31 alpha, 59 DC 31 alpha. So I've put that on and it is functional. So I'm going to have switch header up now. It is plugged in, and you can see it's doing its it's doing its thing for most part. And then of course there is sort of different key maps. Ooh, I'm not sure what's going on there. So if I'm pressing that one, you can see it's got left Alt and left Shift. So that's what the actual key map is saying. As so it's doing exactly what the programming has said it's going to be. So it's just a matter of when this gets to go home to its owner, that they're going to have to just essentially decide what they want flashed into where, and yeah, it'll do its thing. So I'm just checking out all of the key maps, making sure that it's all doing what it should. Now I believe there is probably layers involved as well, because now I've kind of got some weird things going on here, which I think I might have transferred into a layer of some kind. Maybe. Yeah, I think I'm on a numpad layer now. Because I was just randomly pressing buttons, and I think that's a toggle for a layer. Yeah, so I ended up toggling into a layer using this toggle button here in the corner. I had inadvertently toggled into a layer, and now that I'm out of that layer, everything is behaving as expected. Okay, now do they have a caps lock? Now if I go to here and go to the second one, there is a, yeah, so this was the layer that I ended up on, so that's why I was getting the function keys, and then I was getting the numpad happening there. You can see some RGB toggle, which is not enabled. Escape, control, I'm not sure what that is. What is that? Hyper, okay, right. So in any case, the actual key map works as intended. It works as designed. There is no caps lock that's currently programmed in, as far as I can tell, just by a quick look. So, you know, and if you're not somebody who normally uses caps lock, that's not a problem. What can I say? What can I say? Well, I guess the only thing that I can say is that it works. I'm happy that it works. I put it together. Nobody's died. I haven't burnt myself. Hopefully I haven't poisoned myself with some rosin fumes either. And at the end of the day, it's actually a really nice kit. It was very satisfying to build at the end of it, like I said. It's just a little bit frustrating trying to get my technique up to scratch to use that. The only other thing was, you may have noticed I was using a very fine tip on my TS100 because I don't have other tips for my TS80, and I found that the very fine tip was actually doing very poorly, because where the heat was being generated was not right down at that needle tip, it was actually higher up, and you had to wait for that heating element to transfer the heat down. So when I was trying to do some of the soldering and I was going a bit quick, it wasn't working at the speed that I wanted it to work at. I did bump it up another 10 degrees or so, ended up bumping up to 320 instead of 300, which is what my normal sort of soldering temperature normally is, to help push that heat down towards the tip, towards that fine tip. So that's just something to be aware of. The fat chisel tip well, not really chisel, but the rounded flat tip from the 80 just would not have been appropriate to try and solder those SMD diodes on, because when I was trying to drop drops on to basically have a bit of tinning on those solder pads, it was just too big. It was just too fat and wasn't working whatsoever. Well, I hope you got to see in super speed 4 hours of me putting this together. And of course, if you got any questions or comments, please chuck them in below. You know, criticize my sloppy work and everything else, but hey, that's just how it is. I'm not a professional keyboard builder, at least by any means. If you like this kind of stuff, please hit that like button. If you want somebody to check out the pain that is involved in building an Ergodox kit, an original Ergodox kit, then please hit that share button. And of course, if you're not subscribed to this channel, I would love and appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button as well. Don't forget to click on the bell to get notifications on whenever a new video comes out on this channel. Now, I'm going to pretty much leave it there, because that has been close to 4.5 hours of my evening today gone into this keyboard. So with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. And of course, as always, until next time, happy clacking.